enough of that now. Enough.
Never enough.
Welcome, welcome. Happy recording day. How are you, Cassandra Sparks?
Excellent, Ewan. How are you?
Living my figure dream. Really am. Yeah. I,
Love that journey for you.
well, thanks for that. I appreciate it. The journey is what the journey is. How's your week been? Have you had a good one?
Good, yeah. Did a little traveling up to North Carolina for some Dale Carnegie programs. And yeah, here I'm back home in Charleston and getting settled in and geared up for the weekend. I have to tell you, for 3 days, I 3 times yesterday I thought it was Friday.
Yeah, I felt the same.
Yesterday. And people were like, "It's Thursday, girl. Get with the program."
It's
I was like,
crazy.
"Oh, okay."
I find it much, I don't know about you, but I find it much more difficult when it's a Friday holiday rather than it being a Monday holiday. A Friday holiday seems to throw me off so much more because I get into my week and I'm like, all right, I got this, I got this, I got this. And then Thursday afternoon comes and everyone reminds me that nobody's coming into work tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's Monday. It's really hard. It throws me off.
It is hard. And as we've discussed, as a small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, what is a holiday really?
Right. I mean, let's be realistic. We can, I think, break the fourth wall down here and say it is a Friday, everybody, and it is
Hmm.
the 19th of June. So we are recording this on a
Hmm.
federal holiday. I'm not sure what the
Hmm.
federal government would say about this, but here we are, grinding away. Look at us do our thing.
I
Um,
know.
well, I think that that is the perfect place to stop our fluff and move into the Sparks Squared Speakeasy. What do you think, Cassandra Sparks? Shall we do it?
Kick us off, Ewan.
Let's do it.
Woo!
Welcome to Spark Squared Speakeasy, everybody. The leadership conversation you were not meant to overhear, served up like a pup. Let me start that again. Welcome to Spark Squared Speakeasy, the leadership conversation you weren't meant to overhear, served up like a casual pub chat for leaders. I am Ewan Ritualing, founder of Figure, and I am here with the dazzling, phantasmagorical Cassandra Sparks. Say hello, Cassandra.
Thank you, Ewan. Hello, my name, as Ewan beautifully set up, is Cassandra Sparks. I am a motivational speaker and boldness coach, and I am just so excited to be here today.
Well, aren't we just happy to be together? We always love our little Friday chats. I know that this isn't going out on a Friday anymore, but it's nice to get together at the end of the week, and I just enjoy this moment. So
Hmm.
let's tell the listeners and viewers what we're going to be talking about today. In this episode, we will be talking about something that is come up in a question that somebody has sent into the podcast. We're going to be talking about avoiding difficult conversations.
Avoiding or leading into
Mhm.
difficult conversations. Hmm. So, folks, pull up a chair because this is real, honest talk about leadership in real life. Let's get into it, folks. The speakeasy doors are officially open.
Woo! I just realized I
Yay.
don't have my headphones on. So I'm gonna put them on now. Just putting on my headphones. There we go. Okay.
Hi. Okay.
Now we can edit. We can cut that crap out. All right. Well, Cassandra Sparks, last week's challenge was, because we always do our episode Courage Challenge, last week's challenge was next time you're in the self doubt trench, think, what do I think? And what's the proof? How did you manage that courage challenge last week, Cassandra? What did you get up to?
Well, one of my limiting beliefs or something that keeps creeping up on me is I'm, quote, not as far along as I'd hope or wished or thought. And that's what I think. The proof that got my brain straightened out was actual video of me facilitating a Dale Carnegie training this week and a separate Carnegie training last week. So movement is happening. There's proof in these videos. And to watch those videos, to see the pictures of the cohort of each week and to see their growth has been just exceptional. So that's been my like grounding force in the last 2 weeks is yeah, a reality check of you're doing the things, girl. It's good. Keep moving forward.
Big congratulations, Cassandra, because I know how hard you work at the Dale Carnegie sessions. I mean, they are high energy, super engaging. So it is always so kind of reassuring when you get to see it back and you kind of think to yourself, okay, yeah, look at me go. I got this. It is a great feeling. We do that a
It
lot.
is. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know something that we do and something we were thinking about actually this week around the self-doubt piece. At Figure in our team, we do our touch points, one on a Monday, one on a Wednesday, one on a Friday, and they're like 30-minute project updates. And there are moments through my week before, leading up to, and after those meetings where I'm constantly in the self-doubt phase that we were talking about in our last episode of like, are we ever going to be able to achieve this or finish this or get this across the line? And it's honestly those little 30-minute moments with the team kind of coming together that we can give each other that sort of validation, that proof that, look, we are moving forward. Sometimes it feels like we're taking 2 steps forwards and then 15 steps back, but we are moving forward. Those 2 steps matter. Yeah, so there we go. I'm really, really proud of both of us for fulfilling our courage challenge from the last episode. And at the end of this episode, of course, we are going to pose this week's courage challenge. So please stick around for that. So, Cassandra, this is an exciting episode because for the very first time in Sparks Squared Speakeasy history, we have got a listener question. Give me an ooh.
Ooh.
I tell you what, even better than that, Cassandra, give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Look at her go. Okay, fantastic. That was corny as all hell, and I loved it.
It was amazing.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into our listener question. I want to say a big shout out to David from Charleston who has sent it in to us. So here goes. Hi, Cassandra and Ewan. I'm a food and beverage director at a hotel here in Charleston, South Carolina. Recently, I've noticed that some of the younger leaders on my team seem hesitant to have difficult conversations with our employees. At the same time, I've worked with senior leaders who avoid them too, but usually for completely different reasons. It got me wondering, why do so many leaders shy away from difficult conversations in the first place? Is it a confidence thing, a generational thing, or just human nature? And more importantly, how can leaders get more comfortable having the conversations that need, in capital letters, to happen? I love this question. Thank you so much, David, for sending it in. We are going to get right into it and we're going to answer your question in this episode because that is what this episode is going to be all about, inspired by you, avoiding difficult conversations and why leaders avoid them. So, Cassandra, what are your thoughts in answer to David's question? Why do leaders avoid difficult conversations?
There's a myriad of reasons. Whether it is a leader or something in your personal life, difficult conversations are inherently uncomfortable because there's this embedded fear. There's fear of conflict and everything that that entails. There's fear of being disliked, fear of what if this conversation makes things worse, fear of not knowing what to say, of not having the right words. So when you put those 4 fears on top of each other and stack them up, that can create a state of paralyzation where people are like, I I'm not interested at all in having this difficult conversation because so many things can go wrong and there's so much anxiety and fear and doubt surrounding this.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Ewan?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Cassandra. The reality, I think, is that for a lot of leaders, it is the fear of the unknown of having difficult conversations, and I don't think as I hate saying this now, it really fills me with dread, but as a more seasoned leader at this stage in my career, but I am really,
You've
really
earned
23
that,
still.
sir.
No, I'm
You've
23.
earned
Shut
that.
up. No, no. I am 23 and I'm a new leader and I don't know anything. I
Fair
am.
enough.
I think as an old, wise, seasoned, wrinkled, graying owl of a leader, I think
How
that
about a sage leader?
okay, fair enough. But I stick with
Yes,
what
because you have all the wisdom. You're a sage leader.
I said. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Um, old is what she's saying. The reality, I think, is that the reality, I think, is that the younger generation of leaders were, for many of them, put into post much quicker than perhaps I was or my peers, my generation were put into leadership roles. Because well, I remember when I was coming through my leadership career, I tried to become a manager. I mean, I can't count how many times I applied for supervisor positions, management positions, senior management positions, because I thought I had everything. I thought I knew it all. I thought I was like, what is there to this? I mean, it's easy. I can do the job. Surely I could be a leader. But there was something in those leaders that were above me and further forward in their career that obviously they saw that there was still those soft skill leadership skills that I hadn't quite mastered yet. Or for much of the case, it was that I just didn't even know that they existed or that they should be considered as a skill. So I think that the having difficult conversations piece was one of those skills that I had to learn to become ready to be a leader. And I think for a lot of younger leaders these days, David, to answer your question, as the sage, wise, old owls that we are, we have not always, if we look introspectively, we've not always set that younger generation of leaders up for success in giving them the skills and giving them the experience and giving them the push that they need to refine and polish these skills when they're supervisors, when they're team leaders, when they're captains. So I do think that the reality is that we just need, as senior leaders, heads of department, directors, C-suite leaders, to be more introspective and think, how can I, as someone who is perhaps more comfortable, make sure that I've set that leadership, that young leader up for success, and helping them to see past the fear, I think, is so important. Helping them to see that, yeah, of course, it's completely human and completely natural to have a fear of conflict. It's completely natural to be worried that you're going to make things worse. It's completely natural as a human being to fear and perhaps shy away from those things with another human being, be it somebody on your team or someone that reports to you. But helping them to instead see that we as their leaders are there to support them through that journey of polishing and refining and practicing and becoming more confident in having those difficult and challenging conversations. So I think my biggest piece of advice is really helping your leaders that are coming up behind you to see past the fear.
Mhm. Yes. And if, like, to speak to David's directly and his question, if David or any leader like him that's experiencing this can start a conversation with, this is a safe space. Let's start this conversation in an understanding way. Let's keep it grounded in respect and in facts versus emotion. Like actually setting the parameters of what's expected ahead of time can create such more freedom in that conversation. You wouldn't think so because you're setting guide rails for it. But actually, those guide rails provide the clarity and the assurance for the folks that are coming to have these difficult conversations to come in without as much worry. And of
Absolutely.
course, our hope is that this leader has built the foundation for a space of trust and respect. Because when that foundation's there, these conversations are even easier, and setting the parameters is even easier. And it doesn't have to be this belabored concept. It's like, okay, what's on your mind? And it's important to me what you have to say, and here's how I think we should approach it. Let's keep it respectful. Let's keep it based on facts, and let's find solutions. There
I
you go.
absolutely agree with that, and something we've kind of penciled in to talk about later on is around that structure and giving
Hmm.
people this structure around having a challenging conversation to allow them that safety blanket. And I think, listen, what you've just touched on there, Cassandra, is so unbelievably correct. As a leader, as I am having a development conversation with one of my junior leaders or one of my younger leaders that supports them to have those difficult conversations in the future more confidently, more consistently. I think that is all about walking the talk as well, because essentially, and something we'll talk about when we get to kind of the solution to how to have a conversation that's difficult, it all is grounded fundamentally in clarity, in transparency, and in trust. And whilst we as leaders need to be able to have those challenging conversations when a gap arises between an expectation and a reality, we also need as leaders to be able to understand the importance of having set that expectation clearly in the first place. Because I think one of the biggest challenges that we all face as leaders in today's world is that we don't spend enough time at the start of a team member's journey with us on the team, in the company, in their role, clearly setting out and then reinforcing the expectations that we have for them. Because we're at such fast-paced, high-volume environments, somebody new comes into the team, we hope that they very quickly absorb the expectations and then meet those expectations through their work output. The reality, though, is that as human beings, we need time to absorb, we need time to process, and we need time to practice. So when you're there, that new member of the team comes in and then inevitably doesn't absorb, doesn't understand, doesn't practice properly the expectations, a difficult conversation has to happen. And it's not normally done by the most experienced, confident leader in the team. It's normally done by a newer a team leader or captain who doesn't have the confidence to be able to have those conversations. So I think that if we really are thinking root cause, why is it that the younger generation aren't having difficult conversations with their team? I think that it fundamentally is down to two things. Firstly, we are not setting them up for success, allowing them the safe space that you talked about to be able to practice, to be able to get clarity on how a difficult conversation should happen. But secondly, we're not setting the expectation of the team members clearly enough so that when that difficult conversation happens, it's happening directly linked to a behavior or, even more importantly, an expectation that was set at the beginning of their employee life cycle. And that I think is every time we at Figure Eight go out and do a Figure Eight experience with a leadership team, and we talk about our Clarity is Kind workshop, or we're talking about conflict without the casualties, which is our difficult conversations workshop, that same thing comes up time and time again, is that it's very hard to have a difficult conversation with somebody if they don't know what the expectation was in the first place. It's kind of chicken
You're
and the egg, right?
Yes, yes. So much of what you said is spot on. I can't even properly paraphrase it. It was so beautiful. So we'll just leave it there. And I'll add a Jenga to this to say, if we let our fear of difficult conversations rule how we show up at work and dictate how we behave, the cost of saying nothing really adds up.
Absolutely.
And what that looks like is the problems, either that problem or multiple problems, grow and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Resentment goes through the roof. Performance goes down. The team that's paying attention notices all these shifts, which eventually causes trust, within the team and trust potentially of the leader to erode. So avoiding is not helping anything at all. It's making it much worse. What kind of examples have you seen, Ewan, of how this can take shape when we do not address it?
Just so many countless examples in my career of leaders that I've been led by, but also leaders that I've had the pleasure of being able to work alongside as a consultant or a business partner within organizations, that it just is like it. I think in the UK we would say like the one bad apple spoils the bunch. Is that right? Right? I
Yes.
may be mixing my metaphors slightly, but yeah,
No, it
um,
works.
there's a strawberry in a barrel and a bunch in a box. I don't know. Anyway, I think that one conversation that isn't had just can lead to such cataclysmic issues down the line. I was really lucky when I first went to start working at Celebrity Cruises. I went shipboard and I worked as a learning and development consultant on board their ships. And it was one of the most brilliant experiences I had in my learning and development career, because for those that have ever worked on cruise ships, if you haven't, you should know that the human resources function on board a cruise ship is just crazy. It's an insane experience. You see all sorts of life happening in front of your eyes constantly every day, from the most joyful, wonderful experiences to the most heartbreaking moments, and it all happens in of what some people would have as the size of their own closet. Like, these HR offices are teeny, and you can find space. And learning and development always inevitably is in kind of like the corner of the room. So we're not there right in the heart. We're in the corner of the room, just far enough away to be called upon if needed, but also not close enough being be involved in every single conversation. But it used to always be one of these wonderful things where I would see, not wonderful actually, who would be one of these frustrating things that I would see, where I'd be listening to somebody, a team member, a crew member coming in with a grievance about a leader. It's about something had happened and it wasn't handled the way they thought it should be handled. Inevitably, they were annoyed and frankly pissed off about it. And it's a big deal on board the ship, because you don't want to be pissed off about anything, because you live there and you work there for 6 to 8 months without a day off, working 14-hour shifts. I mean, it's not the place where you want your mental health to be impacted. You want to be in a happy space. So these
Sure.
small moments really do have an impact, and they're like the little bits of kindling that just they burn away, and then suddenly woof, this fire erupts from them. And these little moments where a leader chose to ignore a behavior and it pissed that person off enough to make them want to come down to our little cupboard in the hull of the ship and just get it off their chest. We always saw that as the start of something. And it wasn't always necessarily about that one person, because the reality was it could just be a personality clash. But when you heard like 2 or 3 little bits of kindling of leaders not addressing situations, or not handling a situation the way it should be handled, that was when our little HRE alarm bells would go off, and inevitably L&D would be dragged out of their dusty corner of the HR office and be like, up you go and see what's going on. The friendly face of the HR office would come up and we'd have a look and see what was going on. And 9 times out of 10, there was nothing sinister going on. There was nothing malicious or devious or anything bad like that. It was just simply that there was a burnt out leader who was exhausted and tired and not confident or ready to be able to have a difficult conversation with someone because of all the things we just mentioned earlier in the podcast. All those things. They were worried it was going to make things worse. They were worried it was going to cause conflict. They were worried it was going to whatever, right? And I think that the big sort of problem with ignoring it is that those multiple little bits of kindling, those multiple missed conversations, those multiple moments of letting a performance slip or letting the trust erode turns into this bonfire that is very hard to put out as a leader. It requires some very dramatic set break point where you can draw lines in the sand, and that takes effort. That takes a
Mhm.
huge amount of hard work on your part as the leader that's caused it, but also on the part of all of your support network around you to try and rebuild that trust, rebuild that confidence that the team have in you. So that would be the my kind of takeaway as a leader that's listening to this. If you're hearing this resonate with you in a way that you're like, I probably should have just addressed that. Firstly, the train has left the station. Do not go back now and try and fix it. This is not something you can go and backtrack on. But going forward, just take this as a moment to remind yourself that that is one little piece of kindling that you're adding to that potential bonfire that's going to be very hard to put out in the future.
Mhm. Absolutely. I like the kindling and bonfire. We don't want to call the fire brigade to have to come like rebalance the team to feel safe and productive, because when missed deadlines and poor performance and toxic behaviors all come together as that kindling, it inevitably leads to guest complaints or customer complaints. And that causes even more problems for the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So, the moral of our story, folks, is avoiding these conversations is doing no one a it's just a big disservice.
100%. And the reality is, though, Cassandra, is that again we go back to, if only leaders were set up for success. If only leaders were given the skills and the tools to be able to feel confident going into these conversations. And I think that for a lot of us in our mind as leaders, we overthink the process. And that if I'm completely honest, controversial opinion alert here, I think that, and I say this as somebody who's come from a very different HR culture in the UK and Europe to a very, very Americanized HR culture in the cruise line industry, which is an Americanized HR culture, to now being based here in the US. I don't think that the human resources world has always, not 100% at the time, but has always done itself a service here. I feel like the one of the biggest concerns for people, particularly work in big brands, big companies, where there are big HR, employee relations, employee law departments that are there to support you. I think that for a lot of young leaders, that is such a foreign land to them, that concept of like a corporate HR department or an employee relations department or an employment law department in some companies is what they're called.
Mhm.
It was so scary, so far from the grasps of understanding for many young leaders that they just avoid any conversation because they don't want to risk getting HR involved. And that
Yes.
obviously is a problem. And I don't think that I say we, because I'm a part of that HR world as a learning and development professional, have always done ourselves as a massive service there, because it does lead to us having to come in to fix a fire rather than to support a little bit of kindling. So with that, I was wanting to share with you something that we do share in one of our workshops, in one of our Spark Leadership Journey workshops, in a lot of them. This comes up in actually about 3 or 4 of our different 30 workshops that we have, and it's called the GROW model. And the GROW model is something that I was actually shared with me when I did my executive coaching courses way back over a decade ago, and it has stuck with me. I want to share it with the listeners because I think that this goes to David's point of supporting new leaders and young leaders to be able to have conversations. So, David, I hope that you can take this away as a model and you can share it with the newer leaders in your life, and hopefully it will help them. And I think the thing to remember about the GROW model is it's all about practice. Practice makes perfect. And it sounds really stilted and it sounds really disingenuous and it sounds really forced to start with, which is why I always say practice, practice, practice before you have to use it in real life. So practice using it with your colleagues, with your family, with your friends. So when it does come to a workplace difficult conversation, you can have this conversation and it'll sound really natural. So GROW, GROW, stands for G for goal. So the first thing we're going to do when we're having a difficult conversation is we're simply going to restate the goal. In our case as leaders in operations, restate the expectation. So it's not about diving in to what we saw or what happened or why we're having the conversation. It's just about simply restating something that we both are on the same level at, an expectation. So for example, anyone that works in hospitality will know that uniforms are very important for a lot of us. So
Yes.
it may be that the person that we're having to have a difficult conversation with is about their uniform. They're not wearing their name tag. So we would restate the goal first. We would say, for example, Cassandra,
Mhm.
just wanted to remind you of the expectation we have around name tag usage. And then we're going to just pause for a second. And we're going to naturally then move into the next part of the model, which is the reality. So we're then going to move into what we see. And this is really important. And where a lot of leaders fall down is that they don't talk about reality. They talk about opinion. They talk about what they think. They talk about what they feel about a situation that might have happened. And that's, quite frankly, a load of bullshit because nobody cares. Nobody cares. It is
Mhm.
not about your opinion. If you've set the expectation clearly to start with, and that person has even imaginarily signed off on that expectation being what we do here, when we go up and approach that person 6 months down the line to have a difficult conversation and say, hey, Cassandra, just wanted to speak to you about that expectation that we have as a team around name tag wearing. I noticed that you're not wearing your name tag today. And if we just pause, zoom out from that conversation, what is going through the mind of that employee, that team member, everything is going through their head is probably, yeah, caught me. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was an expectation that I'm well aware of. And yeah, you're right. I'm not wearing my name tag. So far, everything is the opposite of opinion based. It is
That's right.
fact based, it's
Mhm.
reality based, it's very objective. And then this is what tends to happen with leaders. At this point, a new leader, particularly who wants to prove themselves, or an older leader, more experienced leader who wants to show their wisdom, will jump in after going, Cassandra, remember that expectation we have around about name tags? I noticed that you're not wearing your name tag today. And their next step naturally is they want to fix the problem because we're problem solvers. I work
Mhm.
in the hospitality, travel, and tourism market. I mean, we are problem solvers. We get things done. So we say what we should have next. So I want you to go back down the stairs and I want you to go and get your name tag from your locker and come back up to work. Or I want you to go down to the HR office and I want you to get them to make you a new name tag, for example. But ultimately, when we do that, the problem we have is that we are spoon feeding our employees solutions. And we are setting a precedent that if you break a rule, if you don't meet an expectation, if you step away from what we do here, then I'm going to do all the hard work to bring you back into alignment. And
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
sending a huge message to our team members. So we flip it on its head. The O of the grow model, after we've restated the goal and we've explained the reality of what we've seen, the O stands for options. We get them to come up with the options. So we just ask a
Ooh, they
question.
take ownership.
Ownership,
Mhm.
absolutely. So we say, Cassandra, I just want to remind you of the expectation that we have here around wearing name tags. I can see today you're not wearing your name tag. What are you going to be able to do to resolve that before you start your shift today? And now, Cassandra, it is your job to tell me what you're going to do about it. Now, if this is a brand new team member, you might need to give them a little bit of help, give them a little support around finding the options. But the reality is that for 90% of people, they know what the options are. I'll be right back. I'm going to go and get my tags in my bag. The last thing is W for way forward. Once they've decided what option they're going to take, we want to confirm with them before the end of the conversation how we are going to do things going forward. So,
Mhm.
next time you come to work, are you in agreement that you're going to make sure that you come up to work wearing your name tag? Something to clarify, confirm, and get a buy in from that team member. If
Hmm.
we can
Hmm.
use the grow model really effortlessly, super seamlessly, practice, 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 so it doesn't feel like it's four things being kind of parceled together, but one natural conversation, it will become very hard for that team member to instigate more conflict, to allow it to fuel the fire, the bonfire that we were talking about, make the problem worse. Because all we're doing, instead of blaming or talking down to or being opinionated about, instead, we are putting them back in the adult seat and letting them handle things like an adult. And that is the grow model. And I learned it years ago. And I really hope that it helps even just one new leader out there to feel just that little bit confident about going up to a team member in their team and having a conversation that might in their head feel difficult, but in their heart really have impact.
Ewan, that is spectacular. It's a model rooted in respect and empowerment. Would you, if you please, go through quickly GROW one more time, just what each letter stands for?
Absolutely. We're going to G, restate the goal expectation that we have as a team, as an individual. We're going to comment on the reality that we've observed as a leader. We're going to give them the opportunity to come up with options. And then we're going to confirm that they are agreed to a way forward for the future to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Clarity.
Gotta love an acronym, right?
Oh my gosh. So we have clarity, we have facts, we have empowerment, and we have commitment. That's what
Oh,
those four,
love
each of
it.
those four stages represents. Is amazing. I love this model.
It's good, isn't it? And I honestly would love
It's
to be able to
great.
attribute it to somebody, but I have no idea who it was that created it. But it is a really useful model, and I can't find it in any books because I would love to have a book. So if anybody out there does know who it was that the Grow coaching, workplace coaching model came from, please, please share it with me. I would love to know more. Um, well, listen, Cassandra, we have done a great chunky. This has been a girthy episode.
Yes.
Did I make you blush?
Uh,
I'm going to move on. Okay. So, David, thank you. Thank you so much. While she twizzles her hair, David, thank you so very much for your question. You've given us lots to talk about and lots to think about.
mhm.
I don't know what I'm just thinking about. I have absolutely no idea. But anyway, if
Yes,
you would like to, we're getting into
not a
speakeasy
secret.
after hours. All right, everyone, submit. Please submit your question for a future episode, just like David did for this one, in the comments. If you're listening to us on social media or watching us, of course, on social media, and if you would like, you can also send us a DM with your questions if you prefer it not to be public. We will be more than happy to anonymize your questions as well. It has been
Indeed,
an
we
absolute
will.
pleasure answering your question, David. Thank you so, so much.
Yes, thank you, David. We appreciate your boldness in coming forward and posing this question for us, and we hope it helps. All right, as we close out our episode for today, let us present the courage challenge for the week. In the upcoming week, think about a conversation you have been avoiding. Ask yourself two questions. What am I actually afraid will happen? And two, what's the cost if I do nothing? And then once you've asked those two questions, take one step forward toward having that conversation this week and use the GROW model as your framework.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for our courage challenge this week, Cassandra. I'm looking forward to hearing how we get on. We are going to be back in a couple of weeks because I am going on vacation, controversially.
Yay!
I know, shockorama. So
So
thank you so
excited.
much for listening. Not as much as me. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you. If you want to take your workplace learning from bland to brilliant, then please do follow Figary Learning by searching Figary, Figary Learning on all the socials. And you can also follow me, Ewan Ricciolane, spell EwanRiccioliang, where I am always sharing some exciting leadership tips, tricks, and a little bit of fun along the way. How about you, Cassandra?
When you're ready to find out and unlock the power of unleashing your hidden firepower so you can live boldly and authentically, a quick search at Cassandra Sparks YOU will take you exactly where you need to be.
Absolutely. And of course, we have our very own fun shop. Own the room, tell your story where you build presence, confidence, and storytelling that actually lands. We love that workshop. We love being able to deliver it to some amazing brands around the world. So if it's something that you would be interested in for your team, please do get in touch. It is a brilliant experience filled with skills to help you become a better public speaker, presenter, and more confident leader.
Absolutely. If this conversation sparks something for you, share it with someone who needs a seat at our table.
We will be back here very, very soon. Same Speakeasy.
Same Sparks!